Tonight, you went to flip on the lights, they wouldn't turn on because hackers did something. So a group of so-called white hat hackers learned that hacking the American power grid is a whole lot easier than anyone thought it would be. Here to talk about what this means and what our community leaders need to do to fix the problem is our cybersecurity expert, man, myth, legend, Dave Hatter. Now, Dave, before we get started, now my reference point for part of this, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sneakers. Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, like they had a company where their job was to go in and test the security of other companies. And that's sort of what these white hat hackers did, right? These weren't hackers in the sense that they were trying to do anything bad, but they were trying to show how easy it would be to do something bad. Is that right?
That's right, Bob. First off, thanks for having me. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist. There are companies out there that specialize in white hat hacking. They do things like penetration testing and vulnerability assessments to help companies understand where their threats are and what they need to do to plug those gaps, which is increasingly important in today's world, not only from a cyber insurance perspective, which is getting more and more difficult to get, but because we're so dependent on technology now, and we have critical systems, manufacturing systems, the electrical grid, that sort of thing that depend on this technology. You know, I'm thankful there are folks out there who are trying to find these holes before the bad guys do and help the companies that make this software plug them. So yeah, it's a good thing.
And one of the more disturbing things is they've gotten together for these different programs and conferences and their awards and all that kind of stuff. They said that hacking the power grid system was, and I'm quoting here from one of the articles, the easiest thing they'd hacked at the conference so far. How frightening should that be when you compare it to other things they've hacked?
Yeah, I think it's pretty frightening. So this was a conference called Pwn to Own. It's held at least once every year. It's a competition. All these white hat hackers come together and they attack different types of software to try to find these vulnerabilities. So yeah, to your point, these were two Dutch researchers. They won the overall competition. They won $40,000 for this disclosure. And they attacked a protocol called OPC-UA, which is basically a communication system, for lack of a better, more technical description, that runs a lot of factories and things like the infrastructure, the electrical grid. And the fact that they said it was so easy, yeah, to me is really disturbing because you've had the White House, DHS, FBI, and other agencies warn about potential cyber attacks. Just in general, you got North Korea, China, Iran, Russia, always doing these sort of things. And then with the war in Ukraine, and there have been a number of cyber attacks against Ukraine, both previous to this invasion and during the invasion, yeah, it's a huge problem. And I think it's a major concern. And I'm glad there are folks out there trying to find these flaws so the good guys can fix them before the bad guys can exploit them. And to your point, you go to flip on the light switch and there's no light. Well, that'd be a real problem, Bob.
And are people who do this, the white hat hackers, and I'm probably not saying this the right way, are they given hints or anything that makes it easier for them, or are they acting in the same way that a bad actor might be trying to take over the power grid in a sense?
Well, that's a good question, and it kind of depends. In most of these competitions, there aren't any hints. As a business of white hat hackers trying to help companies protect their systems, there are different ways you may go about it. Sometimes you are given hints, sometimes you're not. But usually in a competition like this, you're just kind of on your own. You got to use your wits and whatever information you can put together. So yeah, it's kind of a wild, wild west typically. And they're just really smart, knowledgeable people who've spent years working in these environments, so they know where to look for these kind of problems. But I would also add, so do the Chinese military or the Russian military, where they have essentially unlimited resources, both in terms of money and time, to try to find these vulnerabilities and potentially use them in the event that they either A, wanted to cause chaos, or B, some type of war, or right before a war. The Russians launched a lot of cyber attacks on Ukraine right before the invasion. And I think as our entire society becomes increasingly dependent on technology, that's an ever larger threat, especially because America is so dependent on technology now.
As a guy who's just living his life in Green Township, trying to do the best I can, what do I do? What can I do? What can the people who are in office, who I elected into office or others have elected into office, what can we do to fix this problem?
Yeah, Bob, I think a couple of things. First off, take like the FEMA recommendations for disasters, maybe have some supplies on hand. Let's hope something like this never happens. But secondarily, it's raise awareness with your officials, your congressman, your senator, that sort of thing. Make sure they're aware of these problems and that they're putting pressure on the organizations that can fix these things to make this a priority, both in terms of government agencies and the private businesses that write this software. So yeah, it's extremely critical. And as we become more reliant on technology, it's only going to get more important.
Dave Hatter, just so you know, when it all goes bad, I'm coming to you, buddy, so make room.
Come on over, Bob.
All right. Dave, as always, all joking aside, we appreciate you very much. Thanks for taking some time today.
My pleasure, Bob. Thanks.